Imagine this. You receive an offer that could change your life forever. Not from a random stranger on the internet, not from someone claiming to be a prince, but from people who appear to be connected to one of the most powerful institutions in Africa's largest country. Every email looks official. Every document carries government logos. Every phone call sounds professional. Every meeting is arranged with military precision. Then, to remove every remaining doubt, they invite you to Nigeria. Not to a hotel. Not to a private office. But to the headquarters of the Nigeria Police Force. You drive through heavily guarded gates. Armed officers stand at attention. Official vehicles move in and out of the compound. You are escorted into a conference room inside one of the most secure government buildings in the country. Documents are placed before you. Senior-looking officials shake your hand. Everything feels real. Everything looks legitimate. So you sigh. Why wouldn't you? After all, who would expect a billionaire scam to happen inside a police headquarters? But that is exactly where this story begins. This is the unbelievable story of how a Nepali businessman lost more than $1 million, over 1.6 billion Nigerian nairas at recent exchange rates, to what investigators say was a highly sophisticated international fraud syndicate. And the most disturbing part: the fraud wasn't built on fake websites or anonymous phone calls. It was built on trust. Trust in uniforms. Trust in official-looking documents. Trust in government institutions. And once that trust was won, every step that followed became easier. The victim was an experienced entrepreneur from Nepal who had spent years building his business through international trade. He wasn't desperate. He wasn't careless. He had handled major transactions before and understood that large government contracts required patience, paperwork, and verification. So when he was approached with an opportunity to supply specialized equipment to the Nigerian government, nothing immediately seemed suspicious. The proposal promised a contract worth billions of naira. It involved equipment that governments genuinely purchase. The paperwork appeared complete. The conversation sounded convincing. And the people behind the deal seemed to know exactly how government procurement worked. Like any serious businessman, he asked questions. He reviewed documents. He spoke with the people presenting the opportunity. Each answer made the deal appear even more genuine. Then came the invitation that erased almost every remaining doubt. Come to Abuja, the country's capital, the political heart of Nigeria. That alone carried weight. But the real surprise came after he landed. Instead of being taken to a private office, he was driven straight toward the headquarters of the Nigeria Police Force. As the vehicle approached, security checks were conducted. The gates opened. Uniformed personnel could be seen around the premises. Nothing suggested that he was walking into a trap. Inside the compound, he was led into a conference room where more discussions took place. Documents were presented. Formalities were observed. The environment looked exactly like what anyone would expect from a genuine government transaction. To the Nepali businessman, this wasn't just another meeting. It was the final confirmation that everything was legitimate. Standing inside one of Nigeria's most secure institutions, surrounded by official-looking procedures, he believed he was about to secure the biggest business deal of his career. He had no idea that this moment, inside a building that represented law and order, would become the beginning of a financial nightmare worth more than 1.6 billion Nigerian nairas. And the question that still haunts this case is simple. How does someone allegedly pull off $1 million fraud from a place where crime is supposed to be investigated? But if you think walking into the Nigeria Police Force headquarters was the biggest surprise in this story, What happened next was even more unbelievable. Because the moment the money changed hands, everyone who had acted like trusted government officials simply disappeared. One by one. The businessman had already fulfilled his own side of the agreement. According to reports, he transferred a total of about $1 million, more than 1.6 billion Nigerian nairas at recent exchange rates. The payments were presented as necessary processing costs, logistics, documentation, and other expenses tied to the supposed government contract. To him, these weren't random payments. They were investments toward a deal that promised far greater returns. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The conversations continued. There were reassuring phone calls, fresh promises, new timelines. Every delay came with another convincing explanation. The approval is almost ready. We are waiting for one final signature. The equipment will be cleared soon. For a while, everything sounded normal. Then, almost overnight, silence. The call stopped. Messages went unanswered. Emails received no reply. The numbers that had once been available around the clock suddenly became unreachable. People who had spoken with confidence just days earlier had vanished without a trace. The businessman waited. He tried again and again. Nothing. That was the moment the painful truth finally became impossible to ignore. There was no government contract. There was no official procurement process. There was no billion-naira business opportunity. The entire operation had allegedly been a carefully staged performance. And the man who thought he had secured the biggest contract of his life had instead become the victim of a sophisticated international fraud. But this raises an even bigger question. How is something like this even possible? How can criminals convince someone they are genuine government officials? How can meetings happen inside what appears to be a secure government facility? The answer is both simple and deeply disturbing. Large government complexes are busy places. Every day, hundreds of visitors, contractors, lawyers, police officers, delivery workers, and government staff move in and out. In such an environment, a determined fraud syndicate doesn't necessarily need to control the entire building. It may only need access to a small part of it, or just enough time to create a convincing illusion. Investigators and security experts have long warned that sophisticated fraud groups often rely on what are known as rogue insiders. These are people who already have legitimate access to a building but choose to abuse that access. A rogue insider might help unauthorized visitors enter areas they shouldn't. They might arrange meetings in rooms that appear official. Or they might simply make everything look authentic for a short period before disappearing. Another possibility is the use of fake or unauthorized identification. A convincing badge, a forged pass, or even someone confidently pretending to belong can sometimes fool people, especially in busy environments where staff are constantly coming and going. Security professionals call this social engineering. Instead of breaking doors or hacking computers, the criminals manipulate people. They rely on confidence, on appearances, on the assumption that no one would dare impersonate officials inside a government building. Sometimes, all they need is 1 hour, one conference room, a few printed documents, a couple of well-dressed individuals acting professionally, and a victim who has already been convinced that everything is genuine. To an outsider, it looks exactly like an official meeting. But once that meeting ends, the stage is packed away. The actors leave, and the illusion disappears. It's important to note that the exact methods used in this particular case remain the subject of investigation. Public reports have not confirmed precisely how access was obtained or whether any insiders were involved. What is clear, however, is that someone managed to create an environment convincing enough to persuade an experienced international businessman to part with approximately $1 million. And by the time he realized what had happened, the people behind the operation had already melted into the shadows, leaving investigators with one enormous question. Who were these people? And how did they get so close to the very institutions that were supposed to protect against crimes like this? But the story didn't end when the scammers disappeared. In many ways, that was when the real crisis began. Because this was no longer just about one businessman losing $1 million. It had become an international embarrassment. News of the alleged scam quickly spread beyond Nigeria's borders. A foreign investor had reportedly traveled thousands of kilometers, walked into what he believed was an official government environment, and left the country having lost more than 1.6 billion Nigerian nairas. The obvious question was impossible to ignore. How could this happen? As public attention grew, the pressure mounted on the Nigeria police force to find answers. According to reports, senior police authorities ordered an internal investigation into the incident. Counterintelligence personnel were tasked with tracing everyone connected to the alleged fake contract, including identifying how the suspects gained access and whether any serving officers or civilian staff may have assisted them. Investigators reportedly began reviewing visitor records, examining available security footage, and trying to reconstruct the movements of everyone involved. Every detail mattered. Who approved the visitors? Who escorted them? Which rooms were used? Who had access to those areas? Were fake identities used? Or did someone on the inside help make the operation look legitimate? These were the questions investigators had to answer. Because if someone abused the reputation and security of a national institution to deceive a foreign businessman, then the damage went far beyond the money that was lost. It became a matter of trust. Trust is one of the most valuable assets any country has. Investors don't only look at tax policies or market size before bringing money into a country. They also ask a simple question. Will our people and our investments be safe? When trust is shaken, the consequences can spread far beyond a single criminal case. Businesses become more cautious. Investors demand more checks. Some may even decide that the risk is simply too high. And those decisions affect jobs, economic growth, and the country's reputation. But perhaps the biggest question is not about the Nepali businessman. It's about everyone else. If an experienced international entrepreneur, someone who believed he had verified documents, attended formal meetings, and entered what appeared to be one of Nigeria's most secure government facilities, could allegedly be deceived, what chance does the average Nigerian have? The market trader trying to win a supply contract. The young entrepreneur searching for investors. The businessman attending his first government meeting. The ordinary citizen who believes that once they step inside an official building, they are safe. This case reminds us of something uncomfortable. Buildings don't create trust. Uniforms don't create trust. Official logos don't create trust. People do. And when dishonest individuals exploit respected institutions for personal gain, they don't just steal money. They steal confidence. They make every genuine official work harder to earn public trust. And they leave innocent people wondering whether what looks official is actually real. It is important to emphasize that, as with any ongoing or recently investigated case, responsibility rests with the individuals involved, not with the institution as a whole. The actions of a few suspects, if proven, should never be used to judge the thousands of officers who carry out their duties honestly every day. Still, this case serves as a powerful reminder that no institution is immune from exploitation if strong internal controls are ignored or abused. For the Nepali businessman, the loss was measured in dollars, about 1 million of them. For Nigeria, the cost may be harder to calculate. Because once trust is lost, it takes far longer to recover than money ever does.